What's up everybody, my name's Big Cam and welcome back to another movie review, and today we are talking about James Gunn's Superman from 2025. And I have already done a brief little movie review, initial thoughts when I got out of the theater immediately, and last Friday when that came out I dropped it on that Friday, and the video didn't do all that many views, so I figured why not do a full spoiler talking video and get into things that I really want to talk about and things that happened in this movie that are just unbelievable, and talk about my experience now seeing it twice. My first time around I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars and I was like, yeah, that's a solid 8 out of 10. I really liked it. But my first time through, everyone kept asking me, like, hey, what'd you think? And it was the type of movie for me that I saw it and I immediately was like, you know, it was so much going on and so much getting thrown at you and so much to take in. And, you know, I'm seeing it for the first time, so I'm trying to put together the puzzle pieces in my head and like, oh, okay, maybe this could lead to this, and maybe by the end of the movie this could happen, and maybe this will be revealed, and that type of thing. And I had built this like version of this movie up in my head going through, and then, you know, what happens isn't what exactly happened in my brain. So, you know, maybe I let myself down, but is that the movie's fault or is that my own brain's fault, you know? Like, so the first time around I had too many thoughts and then came out of the movie and was so excited, like thinking about where James Gunn could take this stuff and what kind of world he's building out with his new DCU, and it just got me so excited. And I was like, you know what? I need to see this again for the second time to officially give it my score. And actually in that first video, I put the score in the video of like what I gave it, but I never actually said the score because I couldn't actually articulate what kind of score this movie deserves, because all I really needed to do was see it for a second time. And seeing it with my buddy Langone, we had a great time and he loved it, and that was his first time seeing it and he absolutely loved it. And it was my second time, and like only a couple minutes into the movie I was smiling ear to ear, and I was just really getting to enjoy myself and take it in the second time around. So maybe you're like me, maybe you need to give it a second time watch. Sometimes I watch movies and I'm like, I don't know if I like that or not, and then I watch it a second time, and sometimes I'm like, no, that was ass, it was a terrible movie. I watch it a second time, sometimes I love it even more, right? Like, so I love when I can watch a movie and the score goes up the second time around, you know what I mean? Kind of like Marvel's most recent film, Thunderbolts. Highly rewatchable for me in a completely different way than this film, which is also highly rewatchable, because Thunderbolts, which is now available to rent on Amazon Prime and stuff, and I just rented over the weekend and watched it 2 more times over the weekend. So I saw that movie twice in theaters, and now I've seen it twice over the last weekend. And it's like one of those movies, like I watched it on Saturday and then on Sunday was like, you know what, I'm gonna watch this again because I enjoyed it that much. And it's one of those things, like, I just love seeing these characters interact with each other, whether it's Yelena and Bob and Red Guardian and Bucky and Wyatt Russell and that whole crew of people, which I just loved, like how misfit they are, but yet they're coming together to defeat this villain type of thing, you know? And it's kind of like a smaller story too, where it's, you know, New York, it's not necessarily all over the galaxy. And this isn't necessarily, Superman isn't necessarily all over the galaxy either, but it does feel like a cosmic, you know, this world is so much bigger and crazier. And you know, talking a bit of spoilers, the movie, just from the get-go, I think it's so smart. And one of my biggest gripes the first time around seeing it was, you know, he jumps right into the action 3 years in, and if he didn't have like the Star Wars opening crawl at the beginning kind of thing, where it pops up and goes 300 years ago, there was metahumans, you know, the first metahuman in this world was around. So for 300 years, metahumans have been on this planet. So that says one thing to me: either there's a 300-year-old metahuman somewhere and I'm like, who's that? Or there just 300 years ago was the first superhero type of thing, and who was that, right? So will we ever find out who the original superheroes were? Maybe that's like what James Gunn's going to be eventually doing, like the Authority, and it will be a flashback. And, you know, maybe, who knows, maybe we will flash back to Clark and Lois meeting, and that's really the only stuff that I really want to see, because granted, all of us know the origin story of Superman. We don't need to see the rocket ship crash down in Kansas and get picked up by the farmers and grow up and do the running through the corn stalks and go do his first flight and throw the baseball into the stratosphere. You know, like, we don't need to see him learning his powers. But what I would have loved to see is, like, day one on him deciding he's going to be Superman. Day one on him being like, you know how, like, Spider-Man starts with a homemade suit? Does Superman start with a homemade suit? Or does he, first day on the job, have this suit because his ma stitched it together for him? You know, like, that type of thing. I would have loved to seen that kind of stuff. You know, like, we didn't need to see all of it, but I would have loved to seen, like, his first day at the Daily Planet, his first day meeting Lois, you know, the moment he fell in love with Lois, the first date that him and Lois had, maybe the first flight, you know, like, who knows, kind of like the Christopher Reeve one. Because the Christopher Reeve Superman from 1976, I still love that movie so much. But let's be real, the first 30 minutes or so are a real drag, even in 76, when you knew, like, well, obviously I wasn't born in 76, but going back and watching that movie, you know, and watching Jor-El send the message, you know, it just drags at the beginning. But as soon as we get to Christopher Reeve at the Daily Planet, meeting Lois, and then Superman, you know, doing his thing for the first time, and that pimp outside, whoa, Jack, that's a bad outfit, you know, and he goes up, he goes, excuse me, and he goes and saves Lois here. Like, that's the first time we see Superman, runs around the little swinging door at the front lobby, and then comes out as Superman, and some pimp goes, oh shit, look at that outfit, you know, like, there's nothing like that in this, which I would have loved. I would have loved to seen something like that, like the first suit up, you know, the first time someone goes, what the hell kind of outfit is that? That must be Superman, you know, like, or, you know, how does he get the name Superman type of thing, where, like, Christopher Reeve, sorry, I always throw an S on Reeves just because of Keanu Reeves, but Christopher Reeve, his Superman, you know, isn't necessarily Superman, he just jumps into action, and then she's, like, writing a report, and she's like, who is this Superman? And then, oh, Superman, and then that's how it, like, jumps in, you know? Did we need that? No. I think it works just fine how it is, and with the opening crawl, it gives you just enough information on, like, how we got to where we are, and then the moment he smashes down into the ice, we're off and running, and Krypto drags us back in, and he heals a little bit from the sun, where he was, like, beaten pretty badly, and this Superman isn't OP, which is kind of one of my favorite parts, you know? Every other Superman, like, especially Cavill, I mean, he is a brutal Superman, super dark, you know, like, at the end of his first movie, he has to snap Zod's head, you know, snap his neck, kill him, after, right, so after everyone in Metropolis pretty much dies and all this damage and building, right, like, he didn't catch a building saving anybody, he didn't fucking save any squirrels, he didn't fucking save any civilians. We don't see Henry Cavill really save anybody, we just see him snap Zod's neck, and then he just goes, I'm gonna go be a reporter, and just kind of shows up as Henry Cavill with glasses on. It's like, dude, that isn't, like, and he doesn't even, like, try and, like, hi Lois, you know, like, nothing like Christopher Reeve, like, nothing like his Clark Kent, David Cornsweat's, where his hair's, like, curly, and, you know, he does kind of try and put on a little bit of a different voice, and that's also one of my gripes with this movie, is that I hope in the future we get more Clark and Lois, rather than Superman and Lois. I really loved the Clark stuff myself, I always have, and there is a big difference between Superman, Clark, and then the Clark Kent that is both, you know what I mean, right? So he's almost playing three characters, and Lois knows all three. Lois knows Superman, Lois knows Clark Kent at the Daily Bugle, and then, or Daily Planet, and then she knows Clark Kent at, you know, the farm, and the boy that the parents raised, the alien that the parents raised type of thing, Kal-El, if you would. So there's Kal-El, there's Clark, and then there's Superman. And he really plays all three of them great. But I need to see more, right? Like, if there's one thing this movie did, it made me want more. And as soon as I got out of the theater, even my buddy, as soon as we walked out, he goes, yeah, I want to see more. I want to see more of these characters. I want to see more Superman. I want to see more Hawkgirl. I want to see more Green Lanterns. I want to see Mr. Terrific. I want to see more Jimmy and Lois. I want to see Eve Tessmacher. He's like, I just want to see more. I was like, yeah, I want to see more too, you know? And Supergirl at the end of the movie just got her new promo going. And like, I talked about this yesterday in my Weekly Nerdy News Monday podcast that comes out every week. The Look Up promo for Superman has now been turned into Look Out. It kind of looks like graffiti over the out. So, you know, it's going to be a Superman woman, right? Supergirl has got the same powers as him, right? It's his cousin. But it seems like she's going to be much more punk rock than even he was. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm very excited for that. But I can't be alone thinking that, you know, you leave this Superman wanting to see more Superman, and just the numbers alone back up my statement, because the Christopher Reeve 1976 Superman the movie is up 332% streaming, you know, viewership on HBO Max. 332% up from what it was. Man of Steel is up 218%. The Super/Man, the Christopher Reeve documentary about Superman, is up 1,200%, which is just insane. Like, that's almost like negative people were watching that documentary. And to be honest, I started the documentary, got about 3 minutes in, and was crying real deep tears, and was like, I don't know if I could do another hour and a half of this at like 11 o'clock at night. So I was like, that will be a Sunday midday type of thing. A real cry that you need to watch Christopher Reeve documentary there, but what a gangster. And then Peacemaker is up 91%, which is great because Peacemaker Season 2, although might not be so directly connected to Peacemaker Season 1, it will 100% be connected to James Gunn's future DCU. And he said himself in an interview recently that Season 2 of Peacemaker is going to lay the groundwork for what's coming, you know what I mean? And he said it's going to focus on pocket universes, so maybe with the little bit of pocket universe closet that he has in his house that we've seen in Season 1, maybe that will be a real problem in Season 2, or maybe just like Lex Luthor in dealing with pocket universes in Superman, James Gunn's Superman. Maybe that Season 2 of Peacemaker in those pocket universes are causing real issues, and then going from there, that's what we'll get, you know, going forward. And maybe Peacemaker Season 2 leads directly into Creature Commandos Season 2, or the Waller TV show, maybe a Daily Planet show, you know, where that's been kind of in the works with Jimmy Olsen, you know, and that could work, I guess. It'd be fun. Maybe a Mr. Terrific show, who knows? I mean, I would be here for whatever's coming next, but as of right now, Superman, Peacemaker Season 2 coming in August, and then after that, we're not sure what comes next, as it might be Creature Commando Season 2, it might be another animated project, maybe like a My Adventures of Superman Season 2, or like a My Adventures of Green Lantern Season 1, or maybe it's just on to the movies, where the only other movies we know coming forward are Supergirl, which was Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, just Supergirl now, and Clayface, which I don't think is going to be directly tied to Superman at all, but it's definitely going to start flushing out some of Batman's DC villains type of thing. And I also heard that Clayface movie is going to be like a dark, creepy body horror type of movie, and like almost like a Blumhouse like horror film, he said. So I don't know, I'm very excited for that. But what do you think he follows up Superman with? Because the only other thing we know is that he said there is like a project he's working on, but we don't know what it is, and it's not a direct sequel to Superman is all he's really said. And then like someone asked him, was it a World's Finest, maybe Superman and Batman type of thing, and he just shook his head. He didn't verbally deny, but he just went like, it's not that. But like, could it be? And he's just lying to Josh Horowitz? Who knows? I know for me, I don't necessarily need a Batman and Superman, or a Batman v Superman type of thing, kind of like Henry Cavill's Superman sequel wasn't really a Superman sequel. It just kind of fast-tracked this Justice League thing, which I don't think James needs to do. Maybe the Superman sequel is really just Supergirl. Maybe David Cornsweet is really in that movie a lot more than we expect. Maybe Cornsweet's in Peacemaker Season 2 and that sets up the next movie more than we think. You know, who knows? I'm here for whatever James Gunn's doing next. I mean, he won me over with so many projects previous to this, and this just continued to solidify that I love his work. And James Gunn, you madman. Ugh. What a genius. I love it. And I can't wait to see Peacemaker Season 2 in August. So please subscribe, hit that bell if you don't want to miss those videos when they come out in August. And you'll get the notifications when we're talking Peacemaker or any other DC news. Make sure you hit that bell, subscribe, hit the like button, comment below if you want to support the channel. Oh, almost forgot. I almost forgot to give my score in this one again. The overall score out of 10 stars, I would give maybe like an 8.8, 8.9. I think it's a very, very high 4 out of 5 stars. I left it as a 4 out of 5 star on Letterboxd, but at first it was like an 8.0, 8.1 for me, and now it has solidified itself as like a high 8, maybe a 9.0 on the dot. But for me, it's like an 8.9, 8.8. And maybe on a couple more rewatches, it will just keep going up, you know, and you start noticing more things and that type of thing, you know. And the second time around, a lot more things jumped out on me, you know, like like at one point, Mr. Terrific is riding Crypto like a horse, you know, he's like holding him as Crypto's flying him into action. Which is just a hilarious shot of Mr. Terrific on the back of Crypto, which is, you know, I love it. I love it so much. But that's it for me, y'all. Drop your score out of 5 or 10 stars. My Letterboxd link is down below if you want to check out my other movie reviews. But a 4 out of 5 stars for me, about a 8.8, 8.9 out of 10. Drop your scores out of 5 or 10 stars down in the comment section below. Once again, my name's Big Cam. Thank you guys so much. You guys can find my other social medias anywhere. 2 G's in the Big. Look for this ugly face and you'll find me. Thank you guys so much. Once again, my name is Big Cam, and I will see you beautiful people in the next one. Peace!